Hello, and welcome to our brand new podcast series, Decade of Excellence Reimagining Human Health. Through this series, we'll be celebrating the 10th anniversary of our Bioengineering Department here at the University of Texas at Dallas. My name is Shalini Prasad, and I am the department head for the Bioengineering Department. For our first episode today, my first guest is the Dean of Erik Jonsson School of Engineering and Computer Science, Dean Stephanie Adams. Dean Adams and I will be talking about the future for bioengineering here at UT Dallas. Welcome, Dean Adams. My first question to you. You joined UTD about a year ago. What attracted you to UTD?
Well, thank you, Shalini, and congratulations to Bioengineering on celebrating 10 years. It's been a rapidly growing 10 years, rapidly moving 10 years, I should say. What attracted me to UT Dallas, I think first and foremost, is the vision of the institution, the fact that our legacy lies in our being a graduate-only program conceptualized by the founders of Texas Instruments, which meant it was very cutting edge, right? So it was all about advancing our knowledge, preparing folks for the workforce, and that mission and vision is still very much prevalent today in the DNA of the institution. There are not many schools out there that have such a technology, science, engineering focus as UTD does, and I think that speaks volumes. Again, goes back to the history of our founding. So along with that, the rapid growth of the school and the university, the cutting edge research that's being done, all of those things were attractive. For someone like me, I'm a builder. I like to go places where, the picture's not quite finished being painted and you can still, put a spin on it to some extent. So I think those were the things that attracted me first and foremost. And as I learned more, the quality of the students, the high caliber faculty that we attract, and the contributions that we're making in the backdrop of being in the Dallas Metroplex area with so many technology companies here, everything about it was just a sweet spot for me, and I was successful in my bid to become the dean, and here we are.
Well, we're really excited to have you here. To follow on that, can I ask you, what are the greatest strengths and opportunities you see for us in bioengineering here at UT Dallas?
So I think the strengths that we have, or that we have as bioengineering was introduced to the UTD campus, we still did it around the core foundation of the Jonsson School. So with our founders being from Texas Instruments in that electrical and computing space, as we rolled out our bioengineering, we're looking at electrical sensors and devices. We're looking at imaging. So I think the opportunities for bioengineering are that it keenly aligns with the other departments, and that creates, I think, the next level of research thrust and so forth. So when you look at, material science, and you're looking at bio-nanomaterials and medicine, as our citizenry gets older, we're going to need more assistive technologies, if you will. We're going to need more biomechanical devices. We're going to need different types of materials, new materials for different types of prostheses and things like that. So I think those are all opportunities. I think the strength is that we have a strong bioengineering program that is fortunate to be able to partner with a phenomenal medical school in UT Southwestern. And I always sort of scratch my head when I would hear engineering schools say they were adding bioengineering and they had no medical school. I mean, I just don't know. You can do bioengineering without a medical school, but it certainly helps a whole lot that we have the access to the medical school, that we have joint degree programs. Our faculty have joint appointments and reciprocal agreements for students and faculty to come and go. There's a commitment from the higher ranks within the institution and the UT system to further that with our new translational research building that's coming online in a couple years. So I think those are the greatest strengths and opportunities. I mean, the work that's been done has been first-rate work. So I think it's just, leveraging that as we create more opportunities for collaboration. When I think about building a research program from the individual faculty member's perspective, oftentimes it starts with your own work, and you've got to be good at your own work. And then when you've built a name for yourself with your own work, then you go look for who can I play with? Who can I bring my technology together with their technology, and we do the next cool thing? And I think the opportunities that I see and the strengths of that is that we've got strong faculty who've built their own, solid programs, and now they have been, but they're continuing to partner with others across campus and with the UT Southwestern to give us the next cutting edge thing that bioengineering is going to produce at UT Dallas. Dr. Prasad, you're a new department head. You've been department head for a year and a half in an interim capacity, but this is your first full year starting as the department head. So my question to you would be, what do you see as the greatest challenges and opportunities for the field of bioengineering over the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a very important question, especially as we're going through the pandemic right now. So the pandemic has brought to a sharp focus the value of biomedical engineering, all the way from understanding the genesis of the disease, right? So for example, in this context, COVID-19, to, what may be the quick diagnostics that can be designed to rapidly screen, which is now a current big challenge in our country, to the therapies that exist, to the vaccines, and then finally the impact on humans. So the whole arc primarily has, generated significant interest, especially in the young population, our high school students, right? They're so excited by what bioengineering can do and how they can contribute to basically changing the world, right? So this is like a world-changing moment for them. So what I anticipate, especially from a student standpoint, we're going to have a great influx of bioengineering students over the next 5-10 years, because this is going to drive that. So once we end up with those students, now the question is going to be, are we positioned to give them the correct training, which has to be truly multidisciplinary, and then getting them to engage towards doing the implementation of it? Because ultimately in bioengineering, you can build technologies, devices, but you have to apply them in humans for it to truly have impact. So what does it take to complete that arc? So infrastructure building is one thing, and I think at UTD, we're working towards that. The second, and probably the critical aspect, is the human infrastructure, so the people. So are we hiring the right faculty? Are we hiring the faculty who have that vision and who can connect with our current strength that we have at UTD and make that connection with UT Southwestern towards being able to provide this kind of training? So this would be the next piece. And the last piece is, how can we enhance experiential learning in various ways? Because truly for us to succeed, because now, for example, with this COVID-19 pandemic, we really don't have the back-end science worked out. We are working it out in real time. So our students need to be trained to solve problems in real time. So that is the opportunity we have to leverage towards building the new experiential learning component into our program. So these, I think, are both the opportunities as well as the challenges to counter over the next few years. Dean Adam, as past president of the American Society of Engineering Educators, you have a finger on the pulse of engineering education. So how have you seen biomedical engineering education change over the past 10 years?
I'll go with one of the seminal things that I think, or pivotal things that I think happened in bioengineering, is some of the work that was done by Wendy Neustetter at Georgia Tech when they implemented this problem-based learning. And I think, and that's been longer than 10 years ago, but I think a lot of people have begun to understand that the field of biomedical engineering needs a little bit more interaction than perhaps some other disciplines. And so I think we're starting to see a lot more problem-based learning in bioengineering. We're starting to see people align themselves with medical schools. We're starting to see people have direct admit programs through bioengineering to medical school. I think in a lot of ways, biomedical engineering has replaced the pre-med degree. Now, I don't have any data that says that, but I think people understand that the engineering aspect coupled with the medical applications gives you broader context to create and design solutions for the aging population that we're facing, and bringing the technology with the students' desire to want to help. And that's one of the things that we've learned about, this current generation. They want to know that they're helping others. And I think bioengineering allows them that. So when you kind of back into that, then you need it to be a little bit more applied than theoretical. And I think that's been one of the biggest transitions that I've seen over the last decade or so. Dr. Prasad, how can UTD bioengineering expand our impact beyond our campus borders?
So again, the pandemic, and I'm going back to it as my reference point, but has taught us how to teach without having to physically be in a classroom. It's the necessity, right? Being the mother of invention. So that being the case, we are learning this now. We are learning to perfect it, and we want to use it in ways we have not had an opportunity to use it. So first, of course, with our immediate sister institution, which is UT Southwestern, with whom we are very focused and committed to building this strong bridge and relationship. The ability to offer classes in this virtual hybrid format, allowing engineering education to intermingle well with the clinical practice would be the first step. The second aspect is providing training, especially in the space of regulatory and quality practice, which is the regulation, which is critical in biomedical engineering, because the outputs of biomedical engineering are going to be devices, products, therapies that are going to influence human life. So a good understanding by building those relationships with primarily the local industry and bringing them in to teach with us this key industry-driven content is going to be the next thing that we see, because once we create that knowledge base, we anticipate a lot of interest, not just within the North Texas area, but even internationally. Today, it is very tough traveling, globally, just because of the various travel restrictions that exist. And so this would be then an opportunity for students to get trained in this content through these virtual mechanisms that we are focusing on putting in place. So then the last bit of all of this is to leverage platforms such as what we are trying to do through this podcast, but to have essentially community learning, allowing people to come to UTD and think of UTD bioengineering as their buddy for getting real and clear knowledge, right? The correct scientific knowledge that helps them understand the problems or what's happening around them and how it affects their health. So this is how I see how our campus can stretch outside of just being the physical campus and what we train there. Dean Adams, how can we engage a more diverse group of students and faculty in biomedical engineering, research, and education?
Dr. Prasad, that's an interesting question. I think the studies in the literature suggest that fields like biomedical engineering are predisposed to broader diversity because of this notion of people wanting to help others. And so when you look at research that's been conducted on women or with people of color, they tell us, yes, I want to feel like what I'm doing is matters and it counts and it makes a difference. And so even when we start looking at enrollment trends, I think we already see that's there. So I think the thing that we have to do is we have to keep helping people understand what engineering is. I just think there's such a disconnect in the population, even in 2021, where there's a subset of the population that doesn't understand what engineering is, the value that it brings, and they just still see, and I think they also don't see bioengineering as a caveat to medical school, as a pathway to medical school. So I think we can engage more if we can educate more, if we can help people see that, hey, I was an undergrad in bioengineering and I went to medical school. I mean, you and I have had this conversation before. That's actually how I got into engineering. I injured my knee playing sports in ninth grade, and my dad brought home some magazine about biomedical engineering, and I'm like, I want to make an artificial knee, and that, now at the time I chose to study mechanical engineering, but my inaugural master's program was in a biomedical engineering program. I just ended up not having the right undergraduate experience to be fully prepared for that. But I think that there are a lot of people out there that would gravitate naturally to biomedical engineering if they understood all the pathways that it afforded them.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that insight, Dean Adams.
So, Dr. Prasad, where do you see bioengineering at UT Dallas in the next 5 to 10 years?
So Dean Adams, one thing UTD bioengineering has, which is unique compared to other bioengineering programs, is we are trained with the vision of our TI founders, right? So the idea of being truly entrepreneurial and having an impact which can be measured in not just the economic growth that it might contribute, but also perhaps on the clinical practice. One immediate example which just happened is that of Dr. Lucas Rodriguez, who earned his PhD in biomedical engineering under the supervision of Dr. Daniele Rodriguez. He was the CEO of Circsci, which made a major exit, and it was just under $1 billion. That was the total cost of that exit that happened for them. So that evolved from the fact that we truly cherish interdisciplinary interactions. So there were interactions with the behavioral and brain science faculty with the pain center, but Lucas, being a bioengineer, was able to engineer the vision towards enabling this to occur. So this is just one recent example. So when we think about the next 5 to 10 years, we are training the next generation of thinkers and doers. So these are people who are going to influence the way the field is going to shape and how human health is going to be. So whether it is they're going to start their own companies, or they're going to be impactful players in designing the next intervention. So all of this is what we see, which will put UTD on the map of this is where the next biomedical engineering innovation is going to come from. So we've been very strategic about this, building our partnerships with the medical school. So doing truly joint relationships with UT Southwestern, thinking of the I-35 corridor as where we can partner with other biomedical engineering programs. So these include places all the way down from Rice University, University of Houston, to here up in North Texas with UT Arlington, University of North Texas, and going further up into Kansas with Wichita State University and KU, as well as Kent State. So we're thinking about the true I-35 corridor and building up these collaborative partnerships where we can exchange students who might graduate with an undergraduate program in one place, but get into doing graduate program or clinical training elsewhere, and then leveraging the local industry towards further building up technologies and interventions. So hopefully we are able to succeed with the right partnerships that we are able to make. So Dean Adams, what is your vision to build a stronger relationship with the industry in the DFW area?
So I think first and foremost, I believe in understanding where our alumni are going. So I'd want to look and do a deep dive with you to see, who's hiring our graduates at all levels. And do we have a place that has critical mass? So I think the first level and the lowest hanging fruit would be to start with those companies and try to build out our relationship both in Texas, in the region, and across the country, right? So not all of our graduates are staying right here in the DFW area. So that's level one. I think level two then is, where are there, pockets of strong bioengineering companies and work being done? So for example, I'm aware that the Boston area is really, really ripe for a lot of biomedical research and, bio flavored companies. So I'd want to, talk with you and figure out if we have someone there that we know. If not, let's look at those companies and figure out who has things that align with work that our students are doing at the graduate level and research that our faculty are doing. And we have to start making some cold calls. I know you are a frequent attender of the Biomedical Engineering Society meeting. And that might be a meeting that I accompany you with one year to walk the halls and see who's there company-wise, in addition to the schools that are there, obviously recruiting. So I think that would be sort of the second level. The third level, I would say, would then be to look at companies that we have existing relationships with. And actually, maybe this is not the third level, but a third approach, right? Would be to look at companies that we have existing relationships with, and do they have bioengineering, aspects of their company that we may not know about because it's not located in the DFW area, but it's located somewhere else. And let me give you an example. So as an undergrad and graduate student, I worked for the 3M company. 3M has a ton of biomedical things going on, but to the naked eye, you may not know that, right? Because it's a company that was built around, historically around sandpaper, historically around coating, and it's from the standpoint of, how you coat sandpaper onto a fiber, if you will, of some sort. But the time that I was there, they did surgical implants. They did different types of tape. They made medical products. They made braces. They were used to have the Littman stethoscope that they produced, even though it was under the Littman name. So, but they were headquartered in Minneapolis, but they had facilities around the country. And a number of years ago, they opened up a big endeavor in the Austin area, right? So that's a Minneapolis company with roots in Texas, and the Texas part may not be biomedical related, but they have a huge biomedical presence in the Twin Cities. So then we would go to identify places like that. So I think that's the approach that I hope that you and I can take together to build that relationship. And then I think finally, as we identify one or two strong companies, we have them join the school-wide executive council. I know that's something you've been looking at, is to create a departmental advisory council of some sort. So that would be I think the fourth way to get industry engaged with bioengineering at UT Dallas.
Thank you, Dean Adams, for that quick but very impactful insight into what bioengineering means and is for us at UTD, and sharing with us your thoughts on how we can work together towards growing what we have as a very strong foundation for biomedical engineering here, and making it fly. And so thank you for the time you've given us on this podcast. And I hope to, that all our entire bioengineering community that has grown out of UTD would appreciate this and, take a listen to this. Thank you very much.
Dr. Prasad, thank you for this opportunity to share some thoughts about bioengineering at UTD. And again, congratulations on 10 years, and look forward to see what you guys do in the next 5 to 10 years. Thank you.